So it still boils back to understanding people and creating relationships.
Products also is all about understanding.
Yeah.
People you are managing, products you are managing, you must understand it.
Okay, so now I think it's high time we move to the second part. I feel this is like a two-part kind of conversation, right? And it actually is. So we've done the management side, and now we could drum roll, move to the product side. So you want to talk about being a product manager and understanding the product component. Would you want to start with defining what a product actually is? Because that's a lot of controversy with many people.
All right. It depends on how you see it, but I like to see products as value delivered to customers, or value delivered to his customers' pain. So it might be a collection of features that you've built. It might be one thing, because remember, before we moved to digital products, we're having physical products.
Yes.
Like the chair you sit on is a product.
Yeah.
Right. And some people put time in and effort into designing, into looking at the economic part of it and all.
The shirts you're wearing.
Thank you. The shirts, everything, the phone, the laptops.
Yeah,
people put in time to build those things, and but so that we don't just box products into digital space, right? But since what we know, or what I would think that you're talking about, is the digital product.
To be fair, I wouldn't want to box it, so you could go as far and as wide as possible.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm also an advocate for not being overly stringent with what the product is. I believe you could find products in everything, and from what you're saying, it's leaning towards that area. So please go for it.
Yeah, product is everything. I've worked on 2 projects that were IoT based products. So it means that we had the software part, and then we had the hardware part.
Wow.
And they must talk. But to the customer, it doesn't make any sense. It's just one product. If you like, have 50 parts. So with it, that's why I said product is all about value. If you understand it that way, then you're not just building or racking up features. And you identify that for products, you need to first of all know that what you're doing is solving a real problem or making life easy for people. Because the goal of everything is that people can adopt it. So if you now decide to commercialize that adoption in terms of subscription or taking commission,
yes,
or it tries to go the path of charity, your goal is adoption. Yeah. And you will not adopt what you don't value.
True.
So for instance, if you're driving on a summer afternoon, maybe somewhere in Egypt or Morocco or anywhere in Africa where it's really sunny.
Yeah.
And then you walk into a restaurant and want to get, you're really thirsty, you want to get water. And then they presented you a chilled bottle. Yeah. Very chilled. You can tell that this is chilling. And they said, this is £1.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, I have a glass or maybe a mug or anything that is not well packaged.
Yeah.
Not iced. Not chilled.
Yeah.
Just room temperature water.
Yeah.
And it says to you, this is £10. You will bring out 10 quid and buy that. Because what you're buying is not the packaging. Even though the packaging is good, what you're buying in a product is its value. So if your product doesn't deliver value, it will not be adopted. And that's on period. So how do you arrive at this value? You must anticipate or know that a problem exists. 2 things. Anticipate. This man, iPhone guy, what's his name? Steve said, people don't know what they want until you give to them. So that's anticipation. That you look at people and you figure, oh, they will eat.
Yeah.
What would they eat? What kind of food would they like? And you've not met these people, and you just woke up and you're cooking intercontinental dishes, and then people came in and started eating and started liking it.
Yeah.
And they liked yours based on how it tastes, but you don't know them. So you must be able to find that point in your products where you can properly anticipate what people's problem would be.
Yeah.
And you provide a solution in advance. That's one. Another way is you can look at data. So this is where you look at the market. Okay, both of them can talk about market size, but you can look at data to see the classes of people that you want to address, what their problems are, which of the problems you want to solve, how does it communicate value. Your value proposition canvas, they draw those thoughts and then you present them the solution. That's your product. And as a product manager, it's your responsibility that you're able to look into either of this or both and draw up your requirements. So if you identify your market or your addressable market, you can go there and conduct your interviews, you can do your survey. If it's an already existing product, you can do survey from your customers, use of feedback, look at data points, look at if it's an e-commerce solution, look at drop-off point. It depends on what you're doing actually. Yeah. But don't forget, your goal is to deliver value, is to enable people to be able to do something that is pressing for them. So it doesn't matter if it's now digital or physical. Right. So that's product. So as a product manager, you now wear many hats at this point. So sometimes I would like to quickly narrow it down to sometimes you wear a business analyst cap at some point. So because if you move into a place where they are having a product and you want to, for instance, for me, a few things I've done goes to maybe companies I want to move from the way things are and optimize their process. That is the business analysis.
That's pure business analysis.
Some just want to migrate what they have into the cloud. Some want to monetize, migrate and reposition what they have in using cloud technology or latest technology, so to speak. So at that point, you're wearing the hat of a business analyst, which is not too far from your hat as a product manager. Just that in some organizations, those are different roles, right? So at that point, you're looking at your key stakeholders, as analysts calls them. What's the name they give them again? Subject matter experts. You need to know the subject matters experts. These are the gods in each department of whatever, if it's that product or if it's a product or not a company, you need to know the key stakeholders, your customers, your key customers, you need to know them. Then you need to have a sit down in order to be able to gather your requirement engineering. So this is still your heart as a product manager. Then you now need to create your value proposition canvas to see this is the pain point, this is what we think as the value, and then this is what we think is the solution. And one of the trainings that I would recommend to do this is design thinking. It can really help you go a long way. So if you follow the frameworks, the mindset, and the methodologies or in design thinking, you'll be able to scale through this one easy peasy. This is because if you just say, product management, we gather requirements and then we move on to no. You need to understand it and define the problem. Work with your team if you have a team. If you don't, then you need to work with yourself as a team to figure out solutions. Then test before you build. Validate that problem exists. Validate that to each problem, your preferred solution solves the problem. Yeah. Because that's how you create value for your customers.
Absolutely.
So by the time you do that, another thing to also consider, because all that I've said now, it could be said to be in product discovery.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's different from companies that is already, doing well. Yeah. But sometimes it's useful if they are creating niches or features to add to their product line. But as a product manager, you need to know these things. You need to know these skills. Also, you need to be able to analyze data as a product manager. In some organizations, you wouldn't have to touch it, but it will help you, especially if you're moving up your career as a PM. You need to also know how to analyze data correctly, and tools could be. You don't need to know R or any of it. If you want to, but as busy as some use Excel, but I think Power BI or Tableau would help you. You'll be good. Yeah. Or you can do some manipulation using SQL, but I don't know who does that these days anymore. But
SQL let's move on. Nice. SQL is nice. Yeah, let's move on. Like I said.
Right. Then the last one will be one of the tools you pick up as a data analyst or as a business analyst. You need to be able to identify the domain that you're playing in and what factors determines how you play or how to play in that domain. And one of the tools I usually will use will be the pestle analysis, because it's very, very important. Because you might build a great product and GDPR will not allow you to use it. and before you realize it, you've created many dependencies that it becomes really complicated. So you need to also do, so again, market research, understand your customers, create what value would be, test that or validate that those hypotheses or those things work, build as early as possible the most minimal viable aspect of that product and test it. Then you can build on top of it. You don't have to build everything at once. So that's on product. So then you must, especially for that personal analysis, you need to know about government. You need to know about government.
Social factors too, because I've seen a lot of times when you build stuff and because of the socio-cultural stratification, the product cannot fly. So people will consider it as invasive to their culture, invasive to their religious standpoint. Yeah. At some point people will be like, if you use this particular product, then you are out of faith. You see, so I totally agree with the first.
I'll give you an example. if I tell people, I'm still on Facebook, like, Facebook, why not Instagram?
Seriously.
So I get it. They might say, okay, Facebook is for people with their certain age brackets. And certain age bracket will be on TikTok, and some will be on, and it's very interesting. All right, please go on.
So I was just like, that pestle analysis is one thing that I would recommend to anybody if you're looking at considering what your product would, where your product would be playing in, and just sort of scanning the horizon to ensure that you've checked all your boxes, you've crossed all your T's, and you've dotted all your I's. Pestle analysis will help you with the political landscape, the economical landscape, the societal landscape, everything, environmental, your legal landscape,
technology, legal,
So, yes, and then you don't run into a problem where GDPR comes knocking on your door, or some people just come up and say, we don't want your company in this environment. You're polluting our environment or something like that.
As a matter of fact, because I kept saying GDPR because all the factors are very key. But the one that is really important for me, maybe because of what I did recently, is government. If you mess with government, one word, and then your product is gone. And if you're lucky, if it's just gone, if you don't get fined,
wow.
So you might put your company in a whole lot of mess. Yeah. So some organizations have departments where they look into what they do versus what the government wants. Compliance.
Checking compliance. So, I was gonna say,
so this product complies with these lay down principles. So as a product manager in that organization, that department is a place where you take your bed to sleep and wake up there and know what they know.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't have the time to know it. Get help from that department. Make sure everything you do is open to them. One of the pillars of Scrum is transparency.
True.
So identify them as your stakeholder and be as transparent to them as possible, so that they can really quickly, nudge you or draw you back and say, "Hey, this is not going to fly because of this." Yeah. So that way you can talk to them and say, "Okay, so if you can fly this way, what other way can we use? What other way can we, take to arrive at the same goal?" So when you now say that, another, maybe the last point I want to add now on products because of our time.
Yeah.
But the shall comes for me. What I want to add here is that as a product manager, no matter the level of knowledge you've gained over the years, you don't know anything. Or let me be nice. You don't know everything. So it's okay to go with your vulnerability and be vulnerable to those that would help you. Ask questions. Don't make assumptions, or don't make unnecessary assumptions. Ask questions, talk to them. They will give you feedback. And if it is difficult, make research. And don't just rely on what you learn on Google or anything. Validate those things. Know that, okay, so this thing that I've learned is true. Then you have your stakeholders. Go as meek as possible so that they can help your destiny. Otherwise, if you think you don't know nothing.
True.
So and it's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to know how to do data or how to do one or two things. But one thing that I know that you would need to do continuously is learning and acquiring skills. One time, infrastructures were on-prem.
Yeah.
Now they're in the cloud.
Yeah.
As a product manager, you need to start looking at cloud computing. One time we are gathering data. The next morning we have AI. As a product manager, see how that could play in your products. Yeah. Be agile in your thinking and be ready to learn. And I think that would help.
Wow.
So that's my submission on products.
Wow, that's really amazing. I mean, I have a couple of questions, but I'll just stick to one or two.
All right.
Maybe. But I think one very key thing you shared again is just being agile with the changing times, right? It's not just being agile in your product delivery or in your delivery as a product manager, but even as yourself as a product manager, you need to be agile, ensuring that you are keeping up with the changing tides of time.
And not with the Kardashians.
Don't keep up with the Kardashians. Keep up with your own career. Be interested in your own career, says Desiderata. So yes, you need to be very interested in your own career and ensuring that you're agile, you're flexible enough, and knowing fully well, even in your product delivery, that you do not know everything. One thing I always say to my team is whenever we have this kind of, and people, I mean, it's not anybody's fault. The brain always likes to find the quickest possible distance to a solution, from problem to solution, right? And so you assume you understand your customers well enough to propose a solution that would work for them. but invariably you're talking about what would work for you if you were a customer, and all of these are ideal case scenarios. It is not saying anything that is factual. So you have to understand that all you have are opinions, right? So one thing I say to my team every now and again when we have, we need to build this because this person would want that, or I'll be like, you are not the user, I am not the user. We need to come up with a range of assumptions. Yes, would leverage our technical specialty, or you leverage your experience with other products, and ask the questions the right way and get their insight. From there, you could know which of your assumptions were right and which are wrong. So you're not asking the question in a way to even confirm your assumption. You're asking an open-ended question to see which would fall into the basket of your assumption. And then you could be taken by surprise to see that what they are looking for does not even check any of your assumption boxes. So it is always key to understand that you only have opinions. You only know as far as you know, but you need confirmation, you need evidence. So I read this book by, I think, the guys who wrote Scrum Guide, which is evidence-based management. I think every product manager should have a look through that to sort of put some of the things that Dami has said into perspective, because it will help you. It will help you, and I can't say it any more emphatic than this. It would help you. My question to you now, Dami, is you mentioned something around of course, design thinking being very helpful. I use design thinking myself, and I would recommend it to anybody, anytime, any day, to use design thinking. You mentioned something around the minimum viable products. Now, since we are still on the product aspect, what would you consider as a minimum viable product? Because a lot of people have murdered and bastardized that word and thrown everything out. But what it actually means. So I want to see from your experience, what does a minimum viable product represent?
All right. So before you arrive at that point, you need to have defined, well, in my experience, to have defined your product vision and your product goal. So if you look at your product vision, this is, you want to be able to achieve X, Y, Z. This is where we're heading. And then you can trace it backward on your roadmap to say, okay, this is when we're going to get there. But when we get there, this is what we will be able to achieve. So you look at that and say, looking at what we have now in terms of solutions to all the problems, then okay, maybe the best way to say it now, because in my head, I'm thinking for a new product or for an existing product, because it might be different at some point, but I'll go with the new product.
Okay.
So if it's a new product, remember how I mentioned that you need to figure out all the pain points, all the relevant pain points, and come up with a problem definition.
Yeah.
So for the pain points on your value proposition canvas, how normally we do it is list out all the pain points and come up with all the possible solutions. So when I say come up, it doesn't mean that I do the coming up by myself.
Yeah.
So I have teams that you have facilitations with to brainstorm on how to address those issues. Then you now need to prioritize them, right? Which of these solutions or which of this problem needs solving now the most? So if you know, okay, so let's say we do your normal t-shirt sizing to know. There are other techniques, or many techniques you can use to arrive at that figure, or otherwise your team can vis-a-vis communication we had with customers to know the most pressing. And sometimes some of these problems are dependent on others being in existence. So you need to create the one that does not depend on another one. So that already automatically sort it out for you. So you don't need to address, without addressing all the problems, you pick the one that, okay, it should be the one that goes out first, that others can build upon. So we have other ideas to do many wonders, but we need to be able to do this first. So in my experience, I'm trying to look for that in my experience, and because most of the products I've worked on lately are products scaling up, not starting out.
Yeah.
So but even at that, what we've done in terms of minimum viable product is we usually look at dependencies, basically.
Yeah.
So figure out, because if customers being able to check out on time depends on technology. So of course we know it's technology. Now, when it comes to products, which is in the context of what you're saying now, or a new product, that what should we build first? And the answer to that is the most pressing need of your customer. The solution to that is what you build first. So your headache might not be value versus resources. Might be your next headache. It's the reason why you have other methodologies by which you can do this. You don't need to build technology. Remember, technology is just a tool at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you can work out, like for also, which
Yeah.
So what we did at some point is that we commit for that to create a bit of context for everybody watching. So I will not assume that Joshua is the only one here. Assumptions can be dangerous. All right, so also was seeking to solve the problem of service deficiencies or service inefficiencies of handymen in the African space. So what we eventually did was to have a few artisans that we know, then figure out what their pain points are. I mean for even the artisans. So on the surface, the platform seems to be solving the problem for customers, but that is the ripple effect. The real problem is that the artisans are not delivering value. That's the real problem. Now, customers are not getting value as a result of this. You know how we do root cause analysis and we ask why, to trace it backwards.
Yeah.
So on the surface, for every other company doing the same thing, trying to do the same thing, is that they're trying to help customers solve the problem. So we used the why backwards, and we realized that that is not where the problem is.
Yeah.
So we figured out all the pain points. I can't give too much information on this one. So I figured out all the pain points, and then we now decided to test out without technology. So if you check online now, what we did was we created the front end and back end. So you come there, once you make your request, that's all. Every other thing happens on telephone. Just someone calls you back. I heard you need this. So we were playing more like the Wizard of Oz. Then we sent the just to test and to see that what we thought is the solution solves the problem. So part of the metrics is the feedback that we get from customers. So we start with the most pressing for customers. So I've said a lot of things, but what I've just said to you now is that it varies per product and product level or product stage.
Yeah.
But for entry products, your MVP is the part of your solution that addresses the most pressing need of your customer.
Wow. So hence the word viability, because some people would go off building a downsized version of the actual thing, and then it takes you a long time to achieve it because, of course, you're building a downsized version of the full-fledged thing as an MVP. But from what Dami is saying, it could even be a component of your full-fledged solution, because that component addresses the first pain point, which is the most crucial pain point of those users. Sometimes there are, and one thing I've understood from problem analysis is that when you analyze a problem and you find that there are many others, there's usually one key problem that causes the domino effect. And that is the most pressing one, that is always at the forefront, and every other pain point just stems out of it. It's like a fishbone kind of analysis, and you find that actual stock and create a solution to address that in particular and test it. But of course, you are doing the entire full-blown solution, but in the interest of an MVP, you don't want to rack your head building, because at the end of the day, rather, you are not even sure that your solution is the right fit. So the purpose of that is for you to validate early. People always say fail fast, fail forward, and things like that. But I think it's more about learning fast and learning forward. So you learn as quickly as possible. So whatever you could put out the door to test the most painful point of your users' pains is your MVP, basically. And that is something that people should pay attention to. And I think MVP always flies, whether you are a startup or you're just starting out a new product, or you're a scale up, you have a new product line or a new idea you want to launch out. Always looking out for those MVPs, looking out for those main pain points. And then, like Dami mentioned, in a scale up, you also need to consider dependencies, because of course you have some structure on ground, you have some other interdependencies going on. Then you could actually create that particular MVP to test for your solution.
Yeah, so I agree. The essence is that you want to be able to know that what you thought is the solution solves the problem. Because there are many problems, you're picking the most pressing. So once your MVP is out, you are able to create metrics too. Because another part of it is that you must not just to put, we have an MVP, he's already in the market. You must know how he's doing. It's okay if it doesn't work. It's okay if it doesn't fail. But the question is, why did it not work? What could we have done better? That's why you have an MVP, right? So that's why I thought.
Yeah, and I'll just add the other part to why did it not work? You also be like, why did it not fail? So if your MVP doesn't fail, you need to know that it is not just a first-timer luck. It was based on this particular evidence, and making sure that works out fine, and you can always reproduce the result.
Yeah, because you could have built something during COVID, and then when COVID is over.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been very immersive. Thank you so very much, Dami. We are so pressed for time, but I can't let you go unless you bless the listeners to say what you think you would recommend to them if they are starting out, depending on their journey stage or the stage in their career growth. What would you recommend to them for growth tips, for moving up the ladder, or even breaking into product management for those who are not yet in that space? Just in the form of a last kind of closing remark.
All right, for those who are starting out, we're all starting out,
Technically.
All starting out on different levels. But for those who are starting out, always look for those who are already practicing, and not for a job, because the mistake that most people make, they reach out to me and say, you work for this company, we've seen you on LinkedIn, I'm looking for opportunities. I said, no. Even I, even me, I came here looking for opportunities, right? It's not to say that you shouldn't try your luck.
True.
But you can look at other ways. Like what I advise someone, I said, build. If you want to get a job that you think, this person must be earning so you want to get it as well. But sometimes you need to pay the price.
True.
Even though you pay the price somewhere, but you still need to
every time
learn the ropes and come through the ladder. But another advice, don't short circuit your journey. Might seem long, but it's just the word same. It's not actually really long if you look at it backwards. Because at some point you'll be like, when did I even start? Look at me now, right?
True.
So don't short circuit your journey. Look up, get people to look up to. Just mentorship, projects, try and build something, volunteer, also build relationship beyond being deliberate about relationship or with your stakeholders. You also need relationship with people. Learn to cultivate it, right? The habit of going out, not like I don't mean start going out now. I mean build relationship deliberately. Be deliberate about relationship building. Check on people, ask them. You're managing them. You'd realize that your friends base, so to speak, will begin to expand. In fact, you see that you have more charts to read now because you're engaging people. You're checking out on them. You're looking out for them. When they need something, they know who to call. And when you call them, they answer.
True.
So build relationship and also get skilled. Upskill yourself. You'd never stop learning. Today, I still have things to learn. So you never stop learning. Always read to be better. And always, I think the most important is to be the better version of yourself in your career. I know you've heard this before, but in product management, you need it more.
Yeah, true.
To always be better than you were yesterday. I think if you ask me some of the skills to pick up, I think a lot of companies are using Jira for their issue tracking and management part. You might start looking at that. I recently saw a course on LinkedIn, root cause analysis. It might help for those who are just starting, and it should also help for those who are already practicing. Design thinking and the concept of it, just go over it. Critical thinking is also very important as a product manager. Then don't say I'm not a technical person. Even if it's just by observation, learn one or two technical skills. It will help you. You would realize that, because I think the crown of product management would be a solution architect. Even though it's used interchangeably in some organizations, there's a solution architect who does the tech parts and create a solution. But you own that solution. But let's leave the debate out of it. So just keep learning and know where you want to go. So there are different products and product paths. So you should know, if it's digital products, are you looking at e-commerce? Are you looking at finance? Are you looking at... So have a major, but know the basics, so that just in case tomorrow finance doesn't come, you can do e-commerce or retail that way. So, but the concept is still the same. That's what I think. And also maybe a bit of selling myself, even though it's not ready. And I didn't tell Josh this one. I didn't tell Josh this one rather. Scrum is a very important tool that you need to know, because beyond your product management skills, you need to be able to manage your teams effectively. And you can also decide to pick up a career as a Scrum Master, which is also a viable career path, you know. So Scrum is very important. And so what I've done is that I pulled all the materials you'd need for Scrum and put all of them into one document, into a single document. And so, because if you go on scrum.org, there are materials scattered everywhere, chains of it, and you might lose track of what you're doing. So what I did was I created a content, then started pulling the text together. So I haven't done anything. I didn't have anything of my own, maybe some one or two words just to spice things up, but it's ready to last year, to be honest. I just decided to keep it somewhere. So I think when it's out, Josh would know. Just read through, because reading through would help you to understand facilitations, how to do it, the difference between coaching. Those are things that are on scrum.org. Like I said, I didn't create them afresh, but these are materials that would help. Of course, it's going to be free. I'm not selling what is not mine.
Of course.
So I think I'll tell Josh about it. So I think I'll forward it to Josh. Josh, I'll forward it to you.
I'll propagate it.
So that I can review and what's that English again? So review and let me know what you think about it. I think that's what I would do. Get a couple of PMs to go over it and Scrum Masters to go over it and see if it brings value. What we said, you need to be able to know that thing delivers value. So from there, we can all scale it up. So thank you, Josh. That's all my contribution for my plenty talk.
Wow, thank you so very much, Dami. That's amazing. And it's so amazing to even hear that you've managed to pull those resources together. I know it will help a lot of people to learn from afresh, people to reinforce what they've learned before. Like myself, I'm pretty sure that I've lost track of all the things that are on scrum.org. But
some of the things we learn are not used. Just like in any other profession, you would learn a lot of things, but sometimes you have to narrow it down. So I said earlier that your organization will determine how you work. Like the Scrum is a guide. It's not like you need to follow it like that, but just know the guide as to what you're doing. Implementation will differ per company.
So having what you've put together now as a compendium of all those learning I think is going to be a very invaluable resource to refer to every now and then when you are trying to trace your way back, so you don't end up in agile fall or water scrum.
Agile P2. You know what I've called it? No. I called it the Scrum Bible.
Wow, interesting.
So okay. Don't worry. I'll point you today.
Amazing. So yes, guys, be on the lookout for that material. Once it's ready, and I've also gone through it, I would personally share and propagate the gospel of the Agile Bible to everyone who is seeking to either begin or scale up their Agile prowess. But as we draw this to a close, I want to express my profound gratitude to everyone who has tuned in, who has listened to this podcast up until this moment. I want to say you are the real MVPs, and of course that's not most viable product or minimum viable product, rather that is the most viable person, or what does MVP mean again?
You're right. The most valuable person.
Valuable, not viable. Yes. So you are the real MVPs, the most valuable persons, and I want to thank you for sticking around, listening. I hope you've learned a couple of things from Dami. Dami has lots and lots of experience, and one thing we may touch on in the next time myself and Dami are on this show is product management, project management, because he has experiences working in both sides, working in either sides, and but that's something for you to look forward to. But in the interest of today's edition, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed to any of the channels from which you're listening to this from, please do, so that when the book by Dami is out, you would get notified. And when we do get the episode on product versus project management, or however we're going to tag it, you get notified firsthand about the episode release. So until next time, please continue learning, continue growing, and improve on your leadership. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks, Dami.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah.